everyone. I am Sharon. I look after the library here at Martin Online. I look after the face-to-face students, the higher ed students, the online students, the Gold Coast Library, so I have a few libraries that I look after. My section is Stage 1 and it's called Research Finding Academic Sources. When you get to your assignment topic, you will need to analyse the ideas within your research assignment, look at the questions and the statements. You need, before you even start, to make sure that you fully understand the question. That seems kind of silly to say out loud, but you do need to understand what you are answering. Write out the question in your own words, underline some key terms, look up definitions of words that you don't know the meaning of. Rewrite it in your own words. So try and look away from your question and write it as you think the question should be. In your actual assignment question, you need to look for words and work out what they mean in your assignment. For example, process and directive words. They tell you what to do in your assignment. There might be content words or phrases that establish the focus of your question and define your subject area, so you're not looking at too grand a scheme. And limiting words and phrases that actually tell you to narrow down what you're looking at, so you're not looking at too much. Brainstorm. Grab yourself a whiteboard marker and a whiteboard or a big piece of paper and a pen and just write down all the things that you can think about that topic. Generate as many ideas as you can, whether they're directly related or not. That just helps your brain to start thinking about what your topic is. At Martin we have access to 6 databases and we also have over 10,000 ebooks that cover the topics that we teach here at Martin, which of course would include things like business and hospitality and tourism, IT. So make sure that you go into the library and you have a look at the databases, and I'll show you how to do that. We also have a collection of technical ebooks which you will find in Safari, and this again is online, so anyone that has an internet connection and a student ID and password can get in and have a look at it. Of course, with ebooks you can always download them onto your own personal devices, and there are instructions to do that. So what you need to do first is to log into the library. Can I remind you that if you're an online student, you need to have sent your email address to me, and sent your student number and name to me, and then I give you access with a password and a log on. Once you're into the library, you'll see that if you click on the EBSCO databases and ebooks link, that will open up. This is the one here. It says EBSCO databases and ebooks, and Safari Books Online. This is the collection of technical ebooks that I told you about a bit earlier. So basically click on the databases that you want to search in. And you'll have a window that looks a little bit like this pop up. Now you can search in just one database. For example, you can see it says here Business Source Complete, or you can click on the link here that says Choose Databases, and it will open up a window where you can select all of our databases, so you can search through them all at one go. Fill in the required fields. You can either be very general or you can be very specific. You can see over here it says text, 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 but if you click on the down arrows you can see that it says, for example, if you know the author or the title or the ISBN, or it will narrow it down, or you can just do a general search. And then of course click on search. In the databases, the window will open up to show you this. Each one of these blue titles is a link, so if you click on that blue title it will take you straight into the ebook. Underneath it is a synopsis or a summary, so it gives you an idea about what the journal article is about. It also tells you whether you've got full text access to it. You can see that we do here. It says PDF full text. It shows you how big that file is. There's also a list of the subjects that that particular journal article will cover, and you can see that next to the word subject in all 3. On the left hand side you can narrow down your search. You can limit it to full text or ones with references or peer-reviewed articles. You can select the date. This one starts in 1903, so you might want to make it a little bit more current. You may have been asked to look within the last 3 or 4 years when you're looking for journal articles, and of course you can make it much more current there. You can also decide what source you want, whether it's everything or a journal article or an academic journal or an ebook or a book, etc. So if you look down the left hand side you can make it very specific or you can leave it very general. If you leave it general you might end up with hundreds and hundreds of hits. if you make it a little bit more specific, for example, there's only 6 hits here. On the right-hand side is a little blue folder here. And if you have logged into EBSCOhost and created a profile for yourself, which is free, and you need to do that externally of the library logon, then you can, for example, save these journal articles and pop them into that folder so you don't have to go through the search process every time you come back to work on your assignment.
And for how long we have this document available once we
It stays in your folder, it doesn't go away.
Okay.
Yeah. You can see here, I'll just go back one screen. Oh, I can't see it. At the top of the EBSCOhost page it says create a profile, and that's what you would click on, and this is the window that would come up, and you can see here these are some of the benefits of signing in. You can save your preferences, you can organise your research with folders, you can share your folders with other people who are working on the same assignment, you can look at other people's folders, you can save and retrieve your search history, which is really important if you've done a whole lot of research and 3 or 4 weeks later you want to go back and look at where you've been and what you found, you can do that. You can create email alerts, so you can read that at your own leisure. But you can see here I've created an account. Right, we're going to leave EBSCOhost. Yes?
Does it cost anything?
No. We have a subscription to it. It costs us thousands of dollars, but you get to have a look at it for nothing, so long as you're a student. And it doesn't cost you to set up a profile either, that's free. That's part of the EBSCOhost deal. But if you want to do too much in EBSCO, you do need to create a profile because it just makes it so much easier for you. All right, accessing online materials. Now, just because it's on the internet doesn't mean it's correct or relevant or any of the things that we're looking for valid. So we need to, as higher ed students who are researching assignments, essays, etc., you need to work out whether what you're seeing is actually valid and worth putting into your assignments. So if you're looking at a website or looking at some electronic sources, these are the questions that you need to ask yourself. Does your lecturer or tutor recommend this site? Who's responsible for it? Who's actually running it? Because they will have a bias towards a particular view. I mean, that's why you publish something, because you're passionate about it, you want to share your ideas. Is it associated with a respected organisation or institution? Or is it something that's just been published on the internet overnight and has no real credence? Is the organisation who's responsible for the site clearly identified with an official logo, for example? And are contact details provided? Can you see who it belongs to? Is there an obvious bias on the site? So are they definitely slanting? You can tell that by looking at the title of the website, the title of the articles, etc. Does the source use correct grammar and spelling? It's kind of important by the time you get to higher ed that you can spell correctly and that your sentences make sense. Was the site recently updated, or was it published 15 years ago? Because that will, of course, affect how up-to-date it is. As we go through this slide presentation or this PowerPoint presentation, you'll notice down the bottom I've put in some reference information, and we'll talk about that at the end of the presentation, how you need to cite as you go through your work and create a reference at the end. We'll talk about that then. Assessing online material. You are asked in an academic setting to create work that has academic language. And what is this, and why do we have to use it? Well, we use it because it's easy to read, it makes sense, it's logical, it's more professional, it's more academic, etc. And on this side are some examples of informal language that you would use with your mates when you're discussing a movie or whatever, and on the other side some examples of more academic language that you would use in an assignment that you're writing or an essay, etc. So informal language, lots of words are repeated over and over again. You start your sentences with and but. One thing I notice a lot of is people say yeah, no. Are you going to the movies tonight? Yeah, no, I don't think so. Or, do you know what you want for lunch? Yeah, no. It's quite funny because they're the opposite meanings, and that's not academic language, that's a more casual, informal sort of language. Use of slang, guy, cool, awesome, etc. I mean, it might be an awesome paper, but you don't need to write it in the paper itself. This is an awesome paper. On this side, more academic language. Use a variety of words. Your vocab is a little bit more sophisticated. Sentences start with transition words like however, moreover, in addition, and usually you don't have slang in your professional work. Here are some examples of academic language. To introduce an additional idea. These are some of the things that you could say. Also, besides, furthermore, moreover, in addition. To make comparisons, likewise, similarly, also. To express a result, therefore, thus, hence. I won't read them all. There is a copy in the PowerPoint presentation handout that I'm giving you, and it will also be available online for online students to have a look at. But there are some words that you could use instead of the same word over and over again. So you could just use for instance in one paragraph, and then for example in the next, and nevertheless and nonetheless in the third. So there's a variety of more professional sounding words in your assignment. Using technology for researching, this is my favourite area, apart from referencing, because there's just so much and it suits so many different types of learners. You might be a visual learner, so you enjoy seeing things on your screen, YouTube videos, presentations, etc. You might be someone that likes to read heavy text. You might be someone that likes to listen to podcasts. There are lots of ways that you can use technology in your researching as well. For example, online searching, you can use things like advanced Google. And if you're not aware of it, you can just type the words advanced Google into a Google search, and it brings you up with a whole lot of extra options when you're trying to refine your search down. Because if you put academic research as a search term into Google, I guarantee you'll get millions of hits. But if you go into an advanced search and narrow it down to the last couple of years in this particular field with reference to these search terms, it will be narrowed significantly. Google Scholar, databases, etc. EndNote, we don't have EndNote here, but I've used it in other places that I've worked in. It's a very sophisticated way of keeping track of your referencing and creating bibliographies as you start writing your assignments. There are other ways that you can do it. I mean, the very basic is that as you write your essay, you just create a Word document or a text file, and you keep a record of where you have got your information from, because there is nothing worse than finishing your essay and not having a clue where your information came from, and you need to be accountable in that regard. So my advice is that as you start your assignment, as you even start thinking about it, you start creating your reference list and your bibliography. Wunderlist. If you haven't come across Wunderlist before, it's an app for your phone. I believe it's both Android and you can use it on your iPhone as well, and it is basically a list, a little app to help you make lists. I love it. I use it all the time in my personal life as well as my work life. And basically you can just create lists, and there's the very satisfying part of it when you've finished the job on your list. You go in and you tick it, and it makes a beautiful ding sound and crosses it off your list, and you're off and running. So in other words, you can use it if you've got an assignment and you've broken it down into 5 or 6 different tasks that you need to do to keep yourself on track. You can just open up Wunderlist, create yourself a little list and tick it off as you go through. You know, the first thing might be, go to the library and find some resources, make a list of my journal articles, write my opening paragraph, write paragraphs 3 to 4, etc. You can just list what you need to do. SciteWrite and Citation Machine for referencing. You'll find in the library section for higher education on Study Smart, there's a section on referencing where we talk about these 2 online tools that you can use. SciteWrite is a fabulous resource that is put out by QUT, and they have a big team of writers that continually update it. And what you can do is, anything that you can reference, they have an example of how to do it. So you can go in and you can choose APA style guide, because we use the APA style here, and then you can go, right, I've got a website that I need to reference, so you click on the button that says website, and then it shows you how to in-text reference, which is in the body of your assignment, and it also shows you how to do your reference for the end of your assignment. But what is good about that site is it also has lots of examples for things that you might be missing. For example, I've got a book here, but it's got 15 authors. How do I reference that? Well, if you go to SiteWrite and click on book, down the bottom it says, 8 or more authors, this is how you do it. And it's a really good site for that. Citation Machine I enjoy too. You can just plug in the author's name of the book or the article. Maybe you've got the ISBN from the back of the book. Put it in and it will actually pull up a page where it has filled in the referencing for you. You can check it to make sure it's okay. Down the bottom it says cite this, create citation, and then you can copy and paste that into your referencing. I do recommend that you have an idea about what you're doing when you're checking the referencing, and then it will be fine. Don't forget to save your work as you go. That seems a rather silly thing to say, but so many people get caught out because they haven't saved their work. Try and save it to a cloud that you have access to, perhaps Google Drive, Dropbox, even email it to yourself. And that way you've got another copy apart from the one you've got on your flash drive that you've just dumped in your cup of coffee. And you might think that's strange, but I've done that. I've leant over a cup of coffee and my flash drive, which was round my neck on a string, went into my cup of hot coffee and it didn't survive.
Right.
Yes, so don't save your work on one device. We have so many devices nowadays. Just spread the love around. Email it to yourself, save it in Dropbox and keep it on your flash drive or laptop, and that way you've covered yourself in every possible scenario. All right, now we're getting to the boring bit, because that's kind of fun for me. But we do need to talk about validity and reliability. And they're two terms that kind of sound the same, and we're just going to very quickly talk about why they're important for higher education stuff. So the principles of validity and reliability are fundamental cornerstones of the scientific method. That means they're very important when you're doing research. So the idea behind reliability is that it has to happen more than once for it to be reliable. It can't be a one-off. You can't write a paper saying, this happened, if it only happened once. It needs to happen more than once. And validity, that is where you look at the research method and the results have to answer all of the requirements of that research method. Now I'll show you this tricky diagram here. I love this. This is a really easy way of explaining it. Imagine that you're an archer with an arrow and you've been told that you have to hit this. All right, this is validity and reliability. This here is reliable because it lands in the same spot every time, but it's not valid because it's nowhere near where you need it to be. Okay? This one here is valid because it's sort of here, but it's not reliable because it's all over the place. This one, valid as in one of them hit the centre. There is a purple dot in there, I don't think you can see it. This one is neither reliable nor valid. You don't know where it's going to end up, and it hasn't landed in the middle. So that one doesn't work at all. This one is reliable because it lands in the same spot nearly every time, and it's valid because it's where it should be. So if you get stuck, have a look at that little diagram. Your research needs to be both reliable and valid. Okay? So not a one-off, not all over here but not where it needs to be, not all over the place and occasionally hitting the mark, not all over the place and not where it should be. So that little diagram helps you to explain what reliability and validity mean when you're doing your research. So that was one of the topics, one of the questions I needed to answer in this presentation. I think that diagram does it. Making judgments about academic quality. You read an article and you think, is this good enough to put into my assignment? Is it really academic enough? Because that's an important thing that you'll have to ask yourself. So here's a little checklist that you can use. How relevant is it? In other words, does it answer the questions that am I just putting it in to pad out my assignment to make it bigger, or is it actually relevant to what I'm doing? What's the author's stance in relation to the topic? Are they against it, or are they for it, or are they neutral? In other words, do they have a bias? Because if you're basing all of your assignment on somebody who is right over here on the ideas, you're not being balanced, you're not looking at all the other ideas that could be over the other side of the spectrum. Do I accept or challenge their stance? How do I know whether the author has academic credibility? What's academic credibility? Well, they've proved themselves in an academic world. What they say has merit, has been tested, is sensible. So in other words, if I'm basing my assignment on what someone said, I want to make sure that what they say is actually sensible and good stuff and academic. Where does the article or text fit in the context of the broad issue? Is it dated or is it current? And that's really important. If I'm doing leading educational research and I'm basing it on something that happened 50 years ago, I'm in trouble. So it needs to be current. Does it present a new perspective or possible solutions? And that would be fabulous if it did, because you're inventing new stuff. You're right at the forefront of it. What's the author really saying? Can I write it down into one thesis statement? Is it argued consistently throughout the article, or does he chop and change as he or she writes the article? What are the main issues and the sub-issues dealt with? Can I use a concept map to show how they all fit together? So these are little questions that you can ask yourself when you've got something and you're not quite sure whether it fits or whether it's relevant to what you're doing or not. Making judgments about academic quality, we're still just leading on from the last one. Is it convincing or persuasive? What are its strengths and weaknesses? What else will I need to know before I can make a judgment about this text? Who is the author? An individual or an organisation? Are there credentials listed? Is there an email address? Is there any bias? So these are sorts of things that you can ask yourself. And I think there's one more. Do they give references? And that is so important. The work that they've got is probably based on somebody else's, or they've got their ideas from someone else. So you need to find out if they've listed their references and are there links? And even more important, do they work? Because it's no good if there are lots of links and they're all dead links. Do the graphics serve a purpose, or are they just decoration? Are the icons meaningful? Does the site download quickly? Does it present problems for old browsers? When was it produced, updated or revised? Does it seem to give comprehensive information? So these are questions that you can ask yourself. On the handout that I've given you, the presentation today comes from these sites. It was based on these 3 sites. So being a good reference person, I have listed them for you here, and they have been referenced according to the APA style. And my bibliography is at the end as well. And you can go through and have a look and check out those links if you're interested. And that's the end of the presentation. So I hope you enjoyed that. This is a little bit about starting off your academic journey in terms of finding good stuff to put into your assignments. Next time I speak to you, it will be about referencing, which is probably the favourite thing I talk about. So we'll talk more about cite-write and citation machine then, and I'll show you some hints about how to do that. All right, thank you everybody.